So I couldn't let this go by without saying something about it. Of course, it's been on the news. Donald Trump at a rally, Republican rally, or some type of gathering where he's talking to his constituents, basically saying that because he's been indicted, that black people support him more now because they relate to him because he's been indicted. They feel like he's been discriminated against, so they feel more connected to him. And then he goes on to say the lights in the room that he's in are too bright. They're so bright, all he can see is the black people in it. And at that point, I didn't need to see or hear anything else. I want to say that this is not this is a commentary on Trump, but this is bigger than that, because I think a lot of people. Let me scratch that. I think it is very necessary for us as a society to be culturally, I don't want to say culturally sensitive. I think you need to be culturally aware. That way you have a higher percentage chance of not being insensitive and offensive to any culture of people. Now, it seems as if in recent years, that there are certain subsections. I want to say subsections. There are certain sections of culture, groups of people whose sensibilities are the focus of extreme caution and care. Where if you are to say something about that group of individuals, it is almost guaranteed that you will draw the ire of whoever you're speaking with, whoever hears what you say. If you're a public figure, the ideology of cancel culture is more than likely in your future. And I'm talking about the LGBTQ plus community, which I don't have anything against that section of humanity. No ill will. Whether I agree or disagree is irrelevant because I'm not a part of that culture and I don't have domain over anyone. But I'm going to speak about a phenomenon that I think goes overlooked in regard to my people. It feels like in America and amongst those with the loudest voices, biggest platforms, that it is necessary to be sensitive to that community. It's necessary to be sensitive to the Jewish community. It's necessary to be sensitive to many different sections and groups of people except for African Americans. Somehow, in all the hustle to promote equality and show that we're a progressive country where you're free to express yourself and free from persecution, it seems like it's okay to dog black folks. And I'm just going to keep it a buck. I don't even want to try to sound like I'm tiptoeing around the issue, because we get stomped on. And then we get dismissed if we complain about being stomped on. We get excuses. We get told that we're overreacting and everything isn't about race, and this happened 400 years ago and there's no way that there's anything, and you're pulling slavery and white supremacy and racism into everything, and all of the different ways that we are undermined, appreciated from a humanitarian aspect. You know, no disrespect, but Kanye said it. They don't care about black people. This country does not care about the plight of black people. And listen, from the way that I was raised, that's not a statement that I heard in my household. But what I did hear and what I did understand from my parents, and I love them for this, is that as a young black man in America, I had to prepare myself to carry myself in a way different from my peers that did not look like me, in order to have safe passage and any type of opportunity in this country. The idea that there were decades after slavery was abolished that black parents thought about naming their children to camouflage their ethnicity to the world. And I'm daring a white person to call me a liar. You have no fucking idea. There were games that me and my brother couldn't play outside because the possibility of me being mistaken or us being mistaken as threats, like that's a mistake, was higher than my counterparts that didn't look like me, that didn't share the same skin tone. And I lived in a neighborhood full. But as far as politics, and that's kind of where this episode is centered around. When it comes to politics, laws, politicians, platforms, political platforms, just how this nation is governed and how its leaders view the constituents that they govern, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of respect for people that look like me. There's not a lot of reverence as part of a population or the descendants of a population that experienced a Holocaust of our own in this country. And I have no problem calling it that. And that's not a disrespect to the Holocaust that happened to Jewish people. What I'm saying is slavery and white supremacy it doesn't get depicted the same way that the Holocaust does, but it was just as damaging. And it happened in a country that we still have to exist in. As an immigrant people and as descendants of forced immigrant people, our history, our connection to this country is unique, different than all others. I did some research. I tried to Google what legislation, what laws actually mention African American people or people of African descent specifically in its verbiage. Like, this is a policy specifically tailored or meant to address a deficiency or an inequality when it comes to Black people. Not tying us to any other ethnic group, not using verbiage that can be construed or molded or applied because they're speaking about a certain economic group or a certain area of society that we tend to make up a majority of the constituency. No, I mean, just like there's legislature that specifically says Native Americans or any other ethnic group, I tried to Google legislation that specifically pertained to African Americans, to Black people. And I couldn't find any. Like, we did not suffer at the hands of government policy. Like, our government wasn't oppressing us. Not just a group of people, but the founders of this nation. And let me tell you, I'm a veteran. I joined the military. I served my country. You know, not necessarily in the spirit. I benefited from that. But so did this country. I served honorably. So I've contributed. And yet, if I get pulled over in my car, my heart pumps like I don't know if I'm going to make it out this traffic stop. When I drive by the police, I'm nervous. And I don't break the law. What other group says that? What other group has that type of trauma? We're raised in it. Our parents, our grandparents. I lived in Virginia where I had people that I was around, people in the community who it's not more than 2 generations where there were actual slaves. That's a state where plantations are vacation spots. When I got to that state in 1995, you could go on Craigslist and someone was selling slave shackles. This is the country that you want me to feel safe and equally valued in. You want me to partake in the political process where a candidate for the presidency of the United States will get in front of a room of people and say, the lights are too bright. All I see are the black people. And the black people are more connected to me because I am a criminal or I'm being treated as a criminal, and they relate to that process of being discriminated against within the justice system. I'll tell you this as well, and hopefully this isn't going everywhere because I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff, but it's all relative. Becoming a part of the political process, there's a lot of things that are difficult. I was the child of a military. I was a military brat. I moved around, not a lot, but my father was in the Air Force. I grew up in a town in Central California. I was born in Brooklyn, and I joined the Navy as soon as I turned 18. Spent a lot of time on the East Coast in Virginia, mostly in the southern states, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida. No place ever felt like home. It is very difficult to have an investment. It's very difficult to have a point of view. It's very difficult to even understand what the issues may be if you don't have a connection to where you're at. You could live there and not be connected to it. You could be there for years and not be connected to it. And for your information, I don't know, because I've never done a poll. I know that me as a black person, I don't feel connected to America. Meaning, when you say home, you feel safe at home. I don't feel safe at home. And I'm sure that there are a lot of black people who feel that way. And they do things to actually be able to exist and not have anxiety and to feel safe at home. They assimilate a certain way. They arm themselves. They teach each other trade secrets. They pass down, like we're passing down these thought processes and this wisdom to try to be able to walk in this life without putting ourselves in a position to be killed. And people will hear this and actually think that it's an exaggeration, and it's not. I am so far from a street dude. I'm so far from somebody who hustles. Like, not like that's an excuse, but it's like I'm still a threat. I'm still, and not even a threat, I'm still someone whose life doesn't matter as much as somebody whose skin tone is whiter than mine. That's a constituent. And again, as far as the political process is concerned, you know, I see black political scientists and pundits and people having conversations. They have a connection to wherever they're at. Either they grew up there, or they're in the political science realm and they've invested time into that community. I don't have that type of investment in where I live. But this is the reality that I share with a lot of people. And there's something else to be said. When you're being advised to listen to someone's policies and politics and see about their agenda and what aligns mostly with you or your belief system and what you want to see for your people. And here's the choice that I'm faced with, and I'm pretty sure that there are other people who feel the same way. You think about the Democratic Party. There's a lot of empty promises. There's a lot of things that, if there's an assumption that because they're the Democratic Party that they're going to get the support without having to do any work. And I mean, our representatives, at least on the presidential front, have done some horrible things to the black community and said some crazy shit. Joe Biden saying that you're not black if you don't vote for me is absolutely insane. I don't care how you try to spin it. If you're not sensitive and culturally aware enough to understand that you need to word that a different way, how could I believe that you're going to be a caretaker or, a qualified custodian of my future, my present? The crime bill, there's so many things, right? So many things, but it's almost like they believe that, well, we're not Republicans, so you better vote for us, because if not, you're going to get Republicans. Or you're going to get conservatives. I think that's bullshit. It's not valid. As far as the conservative movement, let me paint a scenario. Let's say, because I see on the news that the big thing, or a big narrative, or something that they like to put out in the front of the world is Black Americans, African Americans who support Trump, right? Like the black conservatives, young, old, whatever, who actually support Donald Trump. And my question is this. Let's say it's not Trump. Let's just say it's any candidate, conservative, liberal, any candidate. If you had a nominee for the presidency that checked all the boxes in regards to policy, thought process, common sense, presentation, logical wherewithal, emotional stability, just seemed as if he or she had their shit together. But the cultural climate in the country put you and your family at risk every day, because some of those people who also supported this candidate felt inclined to express their racial prejudice, meaning the country got more dangerous for you because this person was in office, even if their policies were good for your pockets. Is that the person that you vote for? That aligns politically with you, but puts the climate around you to where you're afraid to walk outside? I don't think that I could be a part of that. So when people ask about, is there support for Trump, or, as far as business is concerned and money is concerned and unemployment and all these things that are brought to light as positives, and don't be dismissive of the conservative movement or of the candidate Trump, because he did and showed all these things statistically for the black community. Okay. And we were getting shot at an alarming rate by the police while he was in office. I don't give a shit that he freed Lil Wayne. I don't care. I don't care about his politics. It makes no sense. If it doesn't make any sense for me to have all these benefits and not feel safe outside to enjoy them. Because when he was the president, there was a certain section of the country that went crazy. The Black Panthers, when they stood armed in front of the Capitol building, without making any type of advancement as to try and take over a federal building. Could you imagine if black people tried to take over any building in Washington, D.C. because they didn't like the results of an election? Do you know how many dead black people there would be? Show me a news story, and I'm asking because I don't know, but I'm saying I don't know, but I'm also saying I don't think that there are or is a whole lot of instances of it. Show me a story where a young white little boy gets shot for being mistaken as having a weapon. Because little white kids play cops and robbers too. They play with toy guns too. Show me where a little white boy in a hoodie gets attacked because somebody thinks he's walking in the wrong place and they need to perform a community service and save somebody from getting robbed by this little white boy in a hood. Tell me the white homeless person who is trying to buy cigarettes and ends up on the pavement with a knee in his neck, killed, while 4 other police officers or 4 or 5 other police officers or 2 or 3 other police officers, whatever happened with George Floyd. Show me the white George Floyd. Even the fact that if there is one, the fact that it's not on TV, the fact that it's not there to scare, to put the fear, like almost reminding you, like, nigga, remember where you at. Because we gonna do this and ain't nothing gonna happen to us. Listen, if anybody that I know that's not African American that I have a relationship with, I have no beef. I just feel like there needs to be, or we need to recognize that there is no cultural sensitivity when it comes to African Americans in this country. Trump wouldn't dare say anything similar to what he said about the LGBTQ community. If he mentions them at all, he may mention them. I don't go around following his speeches. But you point me to a clip where he says something crazy like that about the LGBTQ plus community. Dave Chappelle is a comedian. He made jokes, and he's actually friends and has business people that he's associated with that are part of that community. And y'all try to cancel him. Like, I'm sorry, that this is ridiculous. And I probably won't talk about anything like this again unless I'm responding to another video that I've seen. But this is, I don't even want to say it's disheartening. This is the reality that I live in. And as a father of brown children, it's amazing and that I have to have these types of conversations. Like, you can't just do your best. You have to do better than your best. And you have to be extra careful. You need to watch your tongue in a different manner. You need to change how you dress. You need to do these things because you're in a society, in a country that does not see you as an equal. Everything about you is extra. And not only do they not see you as an equal, they don't even acknowledge the fact that you and people who look like you are coming from a place of disadvantage. And not, it doesn't even necessarily need to be a financial disadvantage or the family structure is disadvantaged. The fact that you live in a society that's full of racist people, where white supremacy and racist policies and just racist points of view are prevalent. To the point where it's normative, where if you bring it up and in your mind you feel like you're being discriminated against, immediately they have a term, you're playing the black card. Like the things as a black person that you actually have to endure just to get by, let alone succeed, are, if you think about it for too long, it can fuck your head up. Facts. And we're living here, right? I'm here. I'm existing in this nation. I'm a contributing member of this society. These are things that I've chosen to expose myself to because I haven't created an exit plan for myself. I haven't figured out a way to move out of this country and expose myself to something different. And that was my choice. But that still doesn't change the fact that it exists. Stop using all of these things like we're okay or we should be okay with the way that this country is. Every time you say something that nature, well, if you don't like it, then leave. Why do I need to leave? Why can't you be better? Why can't this country be better? More fair? or at least acknowledge the inequity and the inequality and the fact that you have a belief system ingrained, interwoven into the genetics of this nation. Regimes don't get voted out. The Civil War happened to help abolish slavery. A war in this country, on its land, between people who thought slavery, well, I'm sure that's not the only reason for the Civil War, but that was one of the fallouts. That was one of the issues in the Civil War. It was war. Because it's hard to change the mind of a person who has been raised and taught generational thought processes. Tradition. Racism is a tradition. White supremacy is a tradition in this country. It's in the lineage. They may not say it out loud. They may not come to your face and say it. But in corners, when it's just them, the same way black folks get around each other and be like, yo, watch out. It's the same way that there are some white folks who get around each other and like, don't let that nigga win. And I'm just aware. I just wish that people would stop lying to themselves or trying to lie to us that it doesn't exist. No other sufferer of trauma is told to just ignore it and suck it up. None. We lose our opportunities when we stand up for ourselves, i.e. Colin Kaepernick. Shut up and dribble. In a league that wouldn't exist in the level that it existed without us in it. Like, come on, I could over the last 10 years, I could list so many examples of how they attempt to put us in our place. Remind us of who we are in this country. And at the same time, float us full of bullshit by saying, oh yeah, but you do have successful black people in this country. Yeah, and as soon as they step out of line or can't be representative of what you think they should be, you destroy them. And it's not always facts. But you have sickos that are white in American history that are celebrated. We celebrate white rapists and murderers. They have a conversation about crack or just any drugs or drug epidemic that was in the black community. But the makers and purveyors of cigarettes, of alcohol, I'm in the medical industry. Cancer is $1 trillion a year industry. Liver and lung cancer, colon cancer, with the way that they fuel us and feed us. But those aren't epidemics. Those aren't criminal. The Surgeon General put a stamp, like, could you imagine them having crack in a pack at a grocery store or at a gas station, and there's a Surgeon General, warning on it for crack or heroin? Like, but they sell cigarettes and alcohol like it's nothing. Listen, It doesn't matter what I ask for you to not say to me or to not treat me as, because it doesn't, I don't have any control over that. And that's not what this post is about. This is about, listen, this is what we see. This is how we feel. These are the things that are affecting us. Some of the thought processes. I can't speak for every African American, but I believe there are similar mindsets. The mindset of, I'm successful. They allowed me to be successful, so I can't rock the boat. I can't say what I want to say. I can't do what I want to do, because just as quickly as they allowed me to ascend, they'll bring me to a crashing halt. Being an activist and being outside and being popular and just everything that comes with that, like, and how quickly the tables can turn, and you can be America's sweetheart, the best thing smoking, and then now you're walking around like trying to figure it out. Billionaire, losing $1 billion deals. I don't know what else to say. That's it for now. My babies, I love y'all. The mothers of my babies, I love y'all. My family, I love y'all. You know, we're going to continue to do what we do, but understand we're aware. And don't ignore it. Bye.